We're live. Hi. We're just wondering what this was called today. Can't remember the actual title, but I know the topic, and I'm so glad you're here for this new series. It's an 8-week or 10-week?
It's 10, I believe.
10-week series. 10-week series in which we're going to talk about individual little things that you can take, apply to your music, no matter where you're at, and give you a boost, a creativity boost. So the different things we're going to talk about today and in the future lessons are standalone, which means that this is not a like previous series that I've done where it's a progression. It's concepts. Each lesson is a new one. Today we're going to talk about chords and trying to shine a different light on that subject and make it fun and inspiring. And if my goal is to actually give you something that you can explore on your own and figure out new things, because there's, first of all, joy in finding things on your own, and also the things you're going to discover on your own are going to make a lot more sense for you because you actually found that thing. And that's what I want to, that's the approach for these lessons. What can I tell you before we get started? If you're new to this, I'm so glad you're joining us. Every week, there is a practice session, a video practice session that was pre-recorded for you guys. So this is live right now, but once we're done with this event, with this hour event, you will get access to the practice session, which is a video that goes through the different things that we're going to talk today. You can, of course, download any additional assets like tabs or charts or backing tracks, depending on the lesson. And those pre-recorded practice sessions are meant to be a study guide, basically. You determine the time of the day when you're going to do that, and just grab your guitar, press play on the video, and just follow along. And that way you can make the most of each of these sessions. All right, well, let's talk about chords today. Regardless of where you're at, you probably started with open chords, like the cowboy chords. Like the E minor is the first chord I learned. This one right here, because it's easy, just 2 fingers involved. And they're open string chords, which means that you have a lot of open strings in them. So that's the first chord I learned. Then I graduated to a C major, a G, and so forth. And then the F, which is really, really difficult when you're starting out. But those are probably the chords that you started learning. Today we're going to take a different approach. We're going to talk a little bit about what makes a chord. What makes a chord really is just multiple notes played at the same time. And the chords you started to learn are very useful chords. They're using notes that fit well together because of theory principles and harmonic principles. That's what makes this chord work, as opposed to this chord that might not work so well for your ears, but it's still a chord because it's got multiple notes. It's very dense, right? But that's still a chord, because you've got multiple notes at once. Horrible chord, but it's still a chord. Today, without getting too much into what is a horrible chord or not, what makes a horrible chord or not, we're going to learn how to create new chords, new chord voicings. So what is a voicing? A voicing is just the organization of notes. So if we take a 3-note chord, for example, and that's okay if you don't know this, but just try to follow along. If we take a chord like this one, which has a root, major third, perfect fifth, again, it doesn't matter if you don't know the vocabulary behind, but these 3 notes, I can reorganize them so that instead of starting with this note, I'm going to take this note, move it lower, and then I have this voicing. That's a voicing. Same note, but played in different areas of the fretboard, reorganized. That's what a voicing is. And today we're going to learn how to actually create different voicings. I forgot to ask you, Jeff, if you had the the PDFs on?
I do. I have them all up and ready to go.
Awesome. Nice. Well, let's start with the major one. I just want to show you really quick what we're going to deal with. The major chord is a happy chord. It's a chord made of a root, major third, and perfect fifth. Again, the theory, you can just
Is this the chart you
ignore
wanted, or
that.
did you want the tab?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's great. So a chord has multiple notes, and as you see on the screen, if you look at the top diagrams here, the top diagram called C safe major chords. What does that mean? That means that the chords you can build with these notes on the fretboard are going to work in C major, because we're dealing with major chords. And you take any of the notes on the screen, they're going to work in 90% of the time over a C major key. And same thing for the second diagram, D safe major chords. Those are safe notes that are going to work 90% of the time over a D major key. So what does that mean? What is a key? A key basically is determined by what's going on in the background, what you're going to play over. So for example, the simplest form of backing track is going to be just a single note. Imagine that I'm a bass player and I'm going to create a musical bed in C major. What I really need is a C to hear a C. I've got a looper here. It's going to loop whatever I play. We just hear C's. That tells me that I'm in the key of C. And if I want to create the color of C major, I can play any of these notes and it's going to create that color. Any of these notes, literally. For example, if we look at the very top string, I'm going to play all these notes one after the other. You kind of hear something happening, right? I'm establishing a color, and the more notes you have, the more, I really like that angle on the top right. The more notes you have, the more colorful your chord progression is going to be. So that's C major right there. Now, I just played single notes, but I can mix and match these notes together to create that C major color. Let's try. So let's try just picking some notes. If you've been playing for a while, you probably think of C major as this chord right there, right? That open chord. Well, there are multiple notes that are going to work in that C major. And those are the notes that are on the screen here. So let's try making up a chord. Take a look at the high E string. We've got the number 4 there. So those numbers are intervals, by the way. It's the distance between two notes. So I could play that one with, I don't know, I have one just below here on the first fret. Do a little bar here. And then why not add the third string, second fret? That's a chord, right? We don't care about the name of the chord. That doesn't matter. We just know that these notes are safe notes to play on C major. Well, let's try it over our loop. Sounds good, right? I think. And those work because the notes that I'm playing are attracted to that C in the bass. And those notes are organized in a way that they are part of C major scale. And that's why they work so well. Let's try another one. How about we're going to keep that third string, second fret. And this time, on the first and the second string, we're going to play the third fret. That works too. What's the name of that chord? We don't care. We just know that it works. Okay, cool. And then it's up to you to kind of listen to what you're hearing, and if you like an idea, a shape, then concentrate on that. Memorize it so that you can reuse it later on. By the way, if you guys have any questions throughout this hour-long session, don't hesitate to ask.
Well, since you bring that up, there is one question. This should be a real quick answer. What software do you use to create the neck diagrams, like in the practice materials?
Good question. It's a software called Neck Diagrams. It's really, really good. I got it maybe 6 years ago. I use it daily. As a teacher, as a student, it's awesome. So highly recommend it. Neck Diagrams. All right. Let's pause briefly. Maybe I should have started with this to tell you a little bit about theory, about why these notes do work. In music, there are scales, so a certain number of notes that are organized together, and if you follow those notes together to create chords, melodic ideas, or whatever, you're gonna sound a certain way. There's some major scales, some minor scales. There's some dominant scales. There's a lot of different scales out there, and the diagrams that I was using there listed a major scale. The thing is, there are multiple major scales. What makes a scale major is the third. The third note of the scale needs to be spaced a certain way in order to have a major scale. If the third is spaced another way, then it's a minor scale. So that means that there are a lot of possibilities as far as major scales. As long as you have that third that is spaced 4 frets higher than the root, then you have a major scale. So that's a lot of major scales. Because there are 7 notes in a scale. As long as you have that major third, it's part of the major scale family. There are usually 7 notes in a scale. And the diagram that I listed there does not have 7 notes. If we count, we have a lot of notes, but some of these notes are repeated. And if you look at the unique notes, you have the R, that's the red note. That's the root. That's the note that is starting from the name of the key. So the C safe major chords, all those red notes are C's on the fretboard. The D safe major chords, all the red notes are D's. That's the second diagram. The third one, you see the red notes, those are E's because we're in E major. So that's the first note. We have the number 2. If we go back to the high diagram there on the top, we have sorry, I confuse you. We have the second, the third, fourth. So we have root, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and there is no 7 in there. So we have 6 notes out of 7. Why? Why did I skip out the 7? Because I was trying to create safe chords, and what I meant by that is I meant chords that are going to work on the most commonly used major scales. And a major scale is a scale that has a root and a major third. And you often find a major second in a major scale. You often find a perfect fourth. The 7th, however, there are 2 types of 7s, and they're equally used, major 7 and minor 7. That's why I left that out. So that's why those are safe diagrams, safe scales that you can use. So if I go back to my loopy here, anything that I play is going to be attracted to that in the bass. And we're going to just continue trying to find some interesting chord shapes that we like. Take a look at the 5th fret. You see the 5th fret there on that diagram? You have a note all across there. That means that I could play any notes there on the 5th fret. That's kind of easy to remember, and they're going to work in C major. I can play the top 3, for example, on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd string. Do you like this sound or not? And there's no right or wrong answer. If you like it, remember this. If you don't like it, find something else that you like. Maybe this, which was extracted from that diagram too. There's no right or wrong. We're just kind of exploring what we like. Once you find something that you like, let's say that you like this, that's easy to play, which is on the 5th fret. And I'm barring here for strings 1, 2, 3. If you like that, visualize where the root is. So we actually have a root, which is the red notes. We have that on the 3rd string, 5th fret. But often when we play, guitar players have sometimes a harder time memorize the notes of the fretboard. But usually they're pretty good at naming notes on the low E string and the 5th string. So we're going to concentrate on those. The low E string and the 5th string. So this shape, 5th fret, what is the closest root that we can use on the 5th and 6th string to use as a visual reference point? Well, you have one here because we're in C. That's the 5th string, 3rd fret, that red note there. That means that whenever you want to build a major chord from a safe major chord from a root on the 5th string, just visualize that. Let's say that we want to build a chord from the 5th string, 5th fret. We'll use the same shape, which is right there. See, when we're in C, the C is on the 5th string, 3rd fret, and we were barring 2 frets higher, basically. If we're in D, just bar 3 frets higher. That would work. And you can verify that on the D safe major chord diagram that we do have this shape. The shape that has the roots on the 5th string, 5th fret. You can verify that. And then we're barring strings 1, 2, 3 on fret 7, and those notes do appear on the D safe major chord. And so forth. So what I would suggest when you're working on this on your own is to pick a key, C, D, E, it doesn't matter, and figure out some chord shapes, hear how they sound, and take note of what you like and what you don't like. And the things you like are the things you should memorize and reuse whenever you can. So next time, if you did like this, that shape, if you have a song that goes G, E minor, just have those 2 chords. Instead of doing that, maybe the G major can be replaced with that shape that you figured out from the safe notes. So find a G on the 5th string. You have one on the 10th fret. If you're not sure, just use your ear. Until you find that note. It's an octave higher here, but it's the same note. And use that shape instead that you just figured out from the diagram. So now instead of having G major in the open position and E minor, you might replace it with this C and E minor. And if you are playing in a band, if you're playing in a band with 2 guitar players, one can do this, and the other one on top could do this. That voicing. And that's how you can arrange parts that really make sense with a song. If both guitar players are playing the same thing, it's going to become muddy and not as interesting as opening things up. Play in an area of the fretboard that is not already taken, or in a range that is not already taken. If there's a keyboard player, for example, and he's using this range, then you use this one. Let me demonstrate this on the looper here. We've got, I'm going to just create this simple vamp. G and E minor. I'm going to loop that. Okay. That's one part. If I play the same exact thing, not necessary. However, if you do this, and then for E minor, I need to figure out another voicing, but that works a lot better. And then I'll figure out something for that. right? So that's the application there. The more voicings you know, the more chords you know, the more shapes you know, the more expressive you can be and interesting in your music. Okay.
Hey, Dave, we got a question since that seemed like a good stopping point.
Yeah.
This one is from Reno Newski, and she says, or he says, I'm not sure. Hi, Dave. Am I correct when I noodle around to try to bend or vibrato on the red or root note exclusively?
No, but thanks for asking the question. Not necessarily. So if you are bending the red note, so if you're in C, create another loop here. If I take that C, is it pleasant to your ear? Maybe. But it establishes a color. I'm actually suggesting another pitch. What I would suggest here, when you look at your diagram, if you wanted to bend stuff, don't bend from a safe note, but bend from maybe one fret below a safe note to reach that safe note. So that now, let's see, I'll redo my loop here. So if these are your safe notes, and you bend all the safe notes, well, you're bending from safe to possibly not safe, right? Maybe that's the effect you're after, but if you really want to be safe, you bend from a note that is one fret below the safe note so it sounds safe. Sounds better than that, I think. Hopefully that makes sense, but that is a really good question. Of course, you can break that if that's the sound you're after. So it's really all a matter of what do you want this to sound like. But that's the idea. Great. Let's take a look at some minor chords now. And we're going to go back to our example where we used a G and an E, like that. So for the minor chords, I listed a bunch, actually, of different keys. For each sets of chords, major and minor, you have, I believe, 7 different diagrams for you to explore that you can download, of course. And right here, we're listing the G safe minor chords. And just like we did for the major chords, we have some safe notes here that are kind of coming back over and over in the most frequently used minor scales. Again, there are multiple minor scales. All you need for a scale to be minor is to have a minor third. That's the only thing. Anything else can be whatever you want. So here, what we have is a root, a major second, a minor third, of course, a fourth, a fifth, and a minor seventh. There's no sixth because the sixth can be 2 things, just like any other intervals, but the sixth can be major and minor. And here are the other minor diagrams, by the way. And the sixth can be minor or major, and there's a lot of songs with the minor sixth and a lot of songs with the major sixth. So to make it safe, that's why it's omitted there. So same thing, you can create chords here. Let's take a look at the third diagram, which is E safe minor, which is on the screen here. That's the third one down. Because if we go back to our example of G major, the second chord is E minor. We're going to try to figure out a new voicing for that E minor there, instead of doing maybe the standard open string one there. So we just need to kind of look around and see if we can find something that sounds good to us. Any option is a possible option here. Let's try a 4-note chord, for example. We'll use, well, actually, you know what? Because the voicing for G major was around here, we're going to try to find an E minor voicing around the same area of the fretboard there, so that we don't shift around. That's another secret when you're composing. Try to stay within the same range so that it's going to sound more musical and make more sense to the listener. So we're going to try to find an E minor voicing in that zone of the fretboard. We're between frets 10 and 12. That's where we had our G major. So again, we're looking at the third diagram here. Take a look at this. On the 12th fret, which is all the way to the right there, all the notes are taken, are possible notes. That means that we could just stay there if we wanted to. And that would work. But that might be a little boring. So let's try something else, something still close. Maybe we could do this. So we'll just use 3 notes for the G major. For the 12th fret, we're doing a bar, which is from that chord we figured out earlier. We're just not playing the lower root here. You could have a part like this. And maybe for the E minor, we could do 12, 12, 11, which is the second there on the third diagram. So that's the second guitar part. It works, right? Let's try this. I'm going to re-record my G major followed by E minor. Very simple. Oops, I pressed it the wrong time. Here we go. 3, 4. Here's E minor. Back to G major. We're just going to loop those. Okay. On the G major, we're going to play that part with the 12s, and on E minor, we'll alternate. That works. That's not the only option, but that's one of them. And if you don't like that option, just find a new one by just exploring that fretboard and see what will work. That's kind of the idea in this. So with this this lesson, I included some chord progressions. There's, I think, 3 different, or 2, I can't remember. 3. Here's this first one, for example, and you've got, I did this in 3 lines. So the first line, you have the standard chords, like the open chords here. The second line is another option of chords using those diagrams. And the third one is a third option, and you can have a lot of different options. And I tried to use different areas of the fretboard. Let's take the next one. We'll work on the second one just for fun, and we'll try to figure out some things. So we look at the top line. There are 4 chords here. We have an A minor, which is tabbed out for you. And this is the standard form of A minor, the one that you probably learned when you started playing, followed by an F. So you could play the full bar here, but you don't have to. You could just play part of it, because a lot of people have trouble with that F. Then we have C, and then E. So A minor, F, C, and E. I'll record this. Reset my looper. Here we go. 3, 4. F, C, okay, so that's what we have, and we want to embellish that. So that's where you need to kind of explore the diagrams that we had and figure out what you can do over this. Let's just take a look at the first chord, A minor. So what you're going to do on your own throughout the week, and the practice guide is going to help you, you're going to take that first chord, A minor. You're going to go back to your PDF file and look at the A minor safe chords, which is going to list all the possible notes, and figure out a voicing that would work. Let's give that a try. Could you pull up the A minor safe chords PDF? And then we're just going to look at that fretboard and see if we can find something on it. So it's a second diagram here. A lot of possible options. Let's try this. We're gonna play 3 notes here on the high E string, second string, and third string. And something pops up here that I kind of like, or at least I want to try it. Third string, 7th fret. That's the 4. Second and first string we're going to have a bar here on the 8th fret. I like that. So this, in theory, these 3 notes should work over that first chord. It does, right? I'll wait for the loop to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Beautiful. Now let's look at the second chord. The second chord was F. So now we're going to go to the major, safe major chords. We're looking for F, which should be, Jeff, I think it should be on the first diagram we showed, maybe?
For wait, major?
Yeah, sorry. Yep, next one. Yep, there we go. Okay, so we were in this zone of the fretboard, which is playing between frets 7 and 8. Is there anything in that same area of the fretboard that we could use? Yeah, we could actually stay there on the same thing. That would also work, but that's going to be boring. So what we'll do is maybe we can move that to 2 frets below, because that's also an F. You see that on 3rd string, 5th fret, 2nd and 1st string, 6th fret. So now we have something like this. 2 frets below. Should work. Or a chord progression, which is A minor, F, moving on to C, E major. Let's try the A minor, F. Okay, did you like this? Not really. I didn't. So what does that mean? That either means that maybe we change chords, or this is a good example, it might mean that we hit an unsafe note. And we did in this case. It happens sometimes. Your ear is going to tell you. Did you hear that it clashed? Hopefully you did. I like this, but then I don't like this. This doesn't work here. The reason it doesn't work is that if we're looking at a single chord by itself, a song just had one chord, then we're always going to be safe. But if I add a chord to that one after that, that gives the listener more information as to which global key we're in. And the more notes you have, the more chords you have, the more limited you're going to be as to which scale you are. You're pinpointing a very particular scale when you're adding a chord to a chord progression. And that's what we did here. And we suggested a key that actually, in this, I can hear that the problem is the 4th in this case. And the 4th, we were playing that 4th. That 4th is actually an augmented 4th. It's part of the Lydian mode. If this is all above your head, don't worry about it. But your ear hopefully told you that there's a problem, so we're going to change that safe 4th to an augmented 4th, which is 1 fret higher. So if a note doesn't work, just change it to a note that is 1 fret higher. It should work. In this case, it does. So we've got something like this for the first one. I'm going to change this to this, to this. Now it works, right? And the rest, we just have to dig through the other chords and find something. that's how it works. That works too. And 2 other chords for you to try to figure out what to do with them. The cool thing is that this also works with melodic ideas instead of just chords. You can create melodic ideas 1 note at a time, and you can use this as scales. So, for example, I'm going to reset my loop here. We can just pick any diagram, it doesn't matter. Let's try anything. Surprise me.
Surprise you?
Sorry, a lot of switching today.
No, I've got 3 and 4 at once. You can pick one of these.
Okay, perfect. So let's look at the top one. This is the first one we used earlier. We have a C major, and let's create a simple backing track. Instead of just having a single note, we'll just create a chord out of that. So how about this, and then we'll play this, this, and this. I'm just taking notes from that are extracted from the diagram, and it's kind of a complex chord to play, but it doesn't matter. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 notes in this chord. I'm starting on the 3rd string. You can follow along on the top diagram here, 3rd fret. 5th string, 3rd fret. Then right below, I'm playing that 4th, which is on the 4th string, 3rd fret too. And then 3rd string, 2nd fret, and 2nd string, 3rd fret. That's what we have. I'm going to create a simple vamp here. Simple backing track. That's our chord that is extracted from the diagram. Safe notes. I can pick any of these safe notes and it's going to work. It works great. It blends very well. It works because those are all safe notes. So you can approach it in that way too. Instead of seeing it just as a chord builder type of thing, you can see it as a skill builder. And in essence, you're only memorizing 2 safe scales. I know there's a lot of diagrams here, but those diagrams are just a repetition of each other. If you look at the top one, focus on this area of the fretboard, for example, between frets 3 and 5. You see the root on the 5th string, 3rd fret? You've got that. Then you've got another note on the same string, 2 frets higher. And then on the next string, we have frets 2, 3, 5. So you have this shape going on. Frets 3, 5, 2, 3, 5. Now look at the second diagram, which is D major. Well, we have a D, which is the red note. We have it on the 5th string, 5th fret. And we have frets 5, 7. On the next string, we have frets 4, 5, 7. Hey, that's the same exact shape. In E, same exact thing. You just shift that red note to the 7th fret. So really, you just have one scale to learn, and just start it from just move your finger and use the same exact shape. So there are just a total of 2 scales to learn here. There's the major one that is found on any of those 7 major diagrams. You just need to shift that shape, and the minor one. That's all you need to know. And those are 6 notes that are really safe notes. So that's the concept. And what I would like you to do this week is, first of all, memorize both shapes. Pick one key, for example, C, and you memorize it in C major. in one area of the fretboard. You don't have to memorize the full thing. Just focus on one area of the fretboard where the root is, and then do the same thing with C minor. Okay? And if you're a little more advanced, you'll notice that these shapes are the pentatonic shapes, major pentatonic for the major keys, minor pentatonic for the minor keys, with one additional note. That's all. That's all we have. But that's if you're a little more advanced. But those shapes are they're gonna be recurring in a lot of different types of music. They're gonna come back, and they're really safe to use in any kind of music.
Dave.
Yeah.
We've got some questions. Are you ready?
Yes.
Can you handle it?
Yes.
All right.
I was hoping for questions.
Before I ask these questions, I actually want to tell you guys, I can see how many of you are watching. I know somebody out there has to have a question. Now, we at JamPlay, we really believe, we're not just saying this, that there's no bad questions. So please don't feel embarrassed if you have a question that you think is too easy, or if you're not quite sure how to word it, just throw it out there and we'll do our best to answer it.
Yeah, definitely.
And after we're done with the questions about this lesson, if you do have a question that's just about guitar in general, feel free to ask that too. With that being said, the first question is a follow-up to that previous one about bending from the root notes only, and he wanted to know about vibrato too in relation to that same question.
Yeah. So vibrato is similar, but a little different. First of all, you can do vibrato and bends really on any note, not just the root. And in the same way, you don't have to end all your ideas on the root, because that would be kind of boring. That would be kind of like ending all my words with the letter A. So you don't have to. All notes are as valuable. What I would say with vibrato is that really if you slow down vibrato, what makes vibrato what it is a difference in pitch, just like what a bend is, right? So a bend, you pick a note, and you change its pitch by bending the string. You can do a reversed bend, but it's the same way. You have a note, the pitch is changing. Okay, so that's what a bend is. A vibrato is you've got a note. That's that line right here, and in order to vibrate that string, I'm going to change its pitch by bending it slightly. Right, just faster one. The only difference is that you are usually ending your vibrato on the original pitch. So because of that, that means that vibratos are safer than bends, because you're always ending on the note you started from. And if you're starting your vibrato on a note that is in the scale, then you are going to be in the scale. So vibratos are safer, and you can do those anywhere. Just point out, for those of you who don't know, that there are a lot of ways to achieve the vibrato. There's the bending thing, like I did. There's more of a classical thing where you, instead of raising the string, you're moving right and left like that really quick. It's done mostly in fusion, maybe. I don't do it very well, but that's kind of the idea. Yeah, hopefully that answered your question.
I bet it is. I bet it did.
Awesome.
Rather. This is from CNP, and he says, is there an easy way to memorize these diagrams? Or do they need to?
Well, you need to, but you don't need to do it all at once. Just take one chunk, and what I would suggest doing is start with the position or the slice of the fretboard. There's two that you need to focus on. The rest is going to become easy. The first one is the shape that has the root, so the red note on the 5th string. And if you're completely beginning, the first string is the one closest to the ground. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So find where the root is and build your slice of the fretboard on the right side of that from your perspective towards the bridge. So for the G, for example, here that we have on the top, that would be on the 10th fret. Just memorize that shape. trying not to go too far out horizontally. Just keep things contained there so that you don't have to make big extensions. And then do the same thing with the root on the low E string. That G with the root on the 5th string wasn't a good example because the fretboard doesn't go higher than the 12th fret here. So it's a little harder to memorize, but that's my suggestion. So focus be aware of where the root is on the 5th string and 6th string and build it on the right side.
That, my friend, is excellent advice. So we have this is kind of a comment, kind of a question from Talos1975. He says, this ties in quite well with triads, I think.
Yeah, it definitely does. So triad is a 3-note chord, and there are multiple types of triads. Technically, a triad is any 3 notes together that are different. So that's a triad. This would be another one. This is another one. But usually, when we talk about triads, the term refers to a major triad and a minor triad, which is root, that's the red note, major third if it's a major triad, minor third if it's a minor triad, and 5th. And those 3 notes are found in your diagrams. And those 3 notes are actually very important notes in music because those are the foundational notes for a chord, typically. The root, you have to have the root because that establishes the foundation. Everything is attracted to that root. You need a root, which is the red note. The third is going to determine the nature of the scale or the musical element you're dealing with, major or minor. So major third for major elements, minor thirds for minor elements. And the 5th strengthens things. If I just have a root in the 3rd, oops, sorry. It works, but with the 5th, it's stronger. Right? It adds more body to the chord. All the other notes around are adding color to that. But that's really that's the foundational thing. And the 5th, to remember, it adds power. You probably heard of power chords. A power chord is a chord with a root and a 5th. Used in rock and heavier forms of music, heavy, powerful, root, 5th, power chords. But anyways, yes, it ties in with that. Those are super safe notes, root, 3rd, 5th, and then the additional ones are also safe until I remove some, like I did in the diagrams, because they're not as safe. But yes, definitely ties in with that.
Hey, Dave, is there more to the lesson, or should we do some more questions?
We can do more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we have this is a little cool question. Akonye Tobin says, could you tell me what looper to buy as a beginner, if you have a recommendation?
Yeah, I like the one I'm using, and really I like it because it's the only one I've ever used. I'm sure others are great. But I use the TC Electronic brand. I'm going to show what I have here, although it's maybe overkill. And the only reason I have this is that the company sent it to me to review, and I kept it because I liked it. But if I were to buy this, I wouldn't necessarily buy something. Let's see. Can I unplug things? Maybe. Don't want it to be too noisy.
Seems okay.
Okay. All right. This is the looper I use. It's a dual looper, so it has 2 loops. It has a dedicated stop button to stop all the loops together, and an effect thing. Don't need that. But TC Electronic does quality stuff, I think, and they have a mini version with just 1 button and 1 knob for the volume. I don't even know. Yeah, I think, 1 knob and the volume. It's called the Ditto, D-I-T-T-O Mini. It's really small, and that's all you need, I think, for a looper. But really, any looper would do, and what you want to find when you're looking for a looper, I think all of them do that, really. Sorry, I'm just replugging it in.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. When you are looking for a looper, you want a switch that is easy to switch, that doesn't have to press too hard. if you're playing at home, a bedroom player, sometimes you play with your socks. I know it's ridiculous, but it really does. It is important. You don't want to hurt your feet. What else? Yeah, I think any looper would do, but this is the one I use. There's a long answer for that. Sorry.
It's not a long answer at all. It's valuable information from a master. All right. We also had somebody say that they really like the Digitech Jam Man loopers too.
Cool. Yeah.
So I think what Dave says is right. Like, as long as it works, it's probably going to do the job for a beginner. Talos1975 wants to know if he should take your pentatonic mastery course before learning this.
No, they're just independent, and this one is gonna just every week if there's a new thing. So, no, but I would still recommend that you check it out.
You should take every course on JamPlay.
Yeah,
consecutively. All right. Bill Autry says, "Can you explain how to use these scales when the chord changes in the song? Can you not just stay on the same scale pattern?"
It's a really good question. The answer, unfortunately, is a little requires some theory elements, but make sure that I can re-plug this in so that you can hear some sound, or unless you. Okay. So there are two main types of chord progressions. They're the chord progressions that are all written in the same key, which means that all the chords that you're going to find are built using the same exact 7-note scale. And those are great. They're safe because you just learn one scale pattern and it's going to work. An example would be, well, all the stuff that we did here, but let's say we have a song like this. Okay. You got something like that? That's all in one key, and you can kind of hear it. Okay, all that works perfect. Now, if you had a chord progression that did something like this here, hang on just a second. Oops. Got it. You start on one. Oops. It doesn't work here. However, it works in this one. Okay, so you can hear it, right? You can hear that it doesn't work. So there are multiple approaches for that. The simplest one is to think in terms of chords. So every chord, you're going to associate with every chord some safe notes like we did here, and just phrase using those safe notes. So in this case, oops, I deleted the loop. In this case, focus on the individual notes of the chord. I'm visualizing those chords. It's a little slower because I've got to anticipate the next chord. I really like that kind of stuff, but it slows things down. And there is another way that kind of goes along with that, where you find the common notes between these chords, and you build a custom scale, combining those common notes, and you focus on the notes that are different whenever you modulate, change keys. Let's see if I can do it on the spot here. No, I deleted my loop again. Anyways, you get the idea, but it's a full, longer topic. You can find some cool lessons on JamPlay on modulation. That's what it's called. Change of key in the same song. Good question.
Good answer. CNP says, can David point out the minor pentatonic scales in the neck diagrams? I think this will help.
Yeah. That's a good point. Actually, I thought about doing it, and then I forgot, so thank you for reminding me. Let's take a look at any minor diagram, okay? So let's look at this diagram, the top one, G, low E string, 3rd fret. You see this zone of the fretboard, you have the safe notes, and within the safe notes you find the minor pentatonic scale. Again, if you're brand new, don't worry about it, but that's a very commonly used scale because it uses safe notes, which is the object of this lesson. And you can see that we have a minor pentatonic scale with an additional second. And that's all there is. So that's a very good point. If you want to memorize these scales and you're not sure how, but you know your pentatonic scale, for the minor chords, it's just like a minor pentatonic scale with an additional second, major second. In the same way, if we look at the major scales, what we have here is a major pentatonic scale with an additional 4th. Just like that. So the safe major chords are built using a major pentatonic with a prefix 4th. Very good point. Well done. Thank you.
All right. We have a question from Rod Birch. Could you please reiterate the explanation about not using the 7th on the major and the 6th on the minor shapes?
Yeah. So what makes a major scale major is that major 3rd, right? So any scale that has a major 3rd is considered the major scale family, like this big box in which you're going to place all the scales that have a major 3rd, and there's going to be a lot of scales in there. In the type of music you're going to hear on the radio, most of the time, we're going to be in Ionian, which is major scale, a simple major scale, or Mixolydian. And those two scales, the only difference is that 7th in there. We have a major 7th and a major Ionian scale, and minor 7 in Mixolydian. So because we find probably 50% of the songs are going to be Mixolydian, 50% of the songs are going to be, well, to be exact, it's more like 40% Ionian, which is major 7th, 40% Mixolydian, minor 7th. We're going to take out that 7th, which makes the difference between those, because that's not super safe. It's not a very safe bet to play the 7th. They both have a perfect 4th. The 4th was added to the major pentatonic scale because the Ionian and the Mixolydian have a perfect 4th. There is another commonly used major scale that has an augmented 4th, but it's probably 20% of the songs that you're going to hear, Lydian. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's why I decided to take out the 7th for the major ones. In the same way, for the minor scales, the safe minor scales, I took out the 6th because 40% of the songs are going to be Dorian, which is a major 6th. 40% of the songs are going to be Aeolian, which is minor 6th. That's not a safe bet, so we take out the 6th. That's why. There's another scale that is called Phrygian that has a minor 2nd, but those are rare songs. So that's why I decided that the 2nd was a safe note, which is a major 2nd found in Dorian and Aeolian. If this was too fast or above your head, don't worry about it, but this is actually recorded. So if you're a JamPlay member, you can re-watch this as many times as you want, and I would do that so that it makes more sense.
Okay, you kind of already covered this one, but I figured I'd bring it up anyway since it wasn't in the context of the modes.
Okay. So yeah, I recognize you probably mean Phrygian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Ionian, and Dorian shapes. You've added the 2nd note into these shapes. Yes, yes. Okay, so yes, and that's just I think the previous explanation answers that. The previous question, just phrased a little differently. So I think you have your answer.
Okay, I thought so. That is all the questions we have right now, friends.
Awesome. Well, I think we're at the end of this session. We're right on the hour. Next week, a new topic, brand new topic. So take this, explore, and really don't feel like you have to have everything memorized. What these lessons are, just creative tips, inspiration things. So take that. If you can find like 3 new chords for you this week that you really love and use, then awesome. You made the most of this lesson. That's really what this is about. New ideas. Download the diagrams. They're available for you. I also included 3 backing tracks that kind of replace that looper. Just single note backing tracks. Different keys so that you can pick a key, like C, and explore maybe C major chords or C minor chords, it doesn't matter. And make sure you watch the pre-recorded practice session too, which kind of goes with this, and I'm going to walk you through what you should practice. I think that's all I had.
That's it.
Awesome. Everyone have a great week. Practice well. And I'll see you next week, same time, same place. Have a good one.